Hey folks, it's Nate, and welcome to the Iron Sysadmin open source news recap for the week of November 7th. It's November already, folks. I've had a hell of a week, and because of that, tonight while I record, I'm having a beer. It's been busy at work. This weekend is the DEF CON 610 pub crawl, which I am one of the organizers for, so I've been busy with that. And on top of that, we just had a sewer line back up at the house, which has been a treat to deal with. So, join me in a drink. Okay, let's get on with the news. By the way, DEF CON 610 pub crawl this weekend, November 8th, tomorrow. The day you're watching this, it is tomorrow. So come to Easton, Pennsylvania, and join me for a pub crawl where we'll have some more drinks, eat some awesome food, and hack on things like this Raspberry Pi I have on my desk. It'll be a great time. Okay, now, let me get on with the news. All right, our first article is from the Tech Buzz, and there's been a new release of Mastodon 4.5. I like Mastodon. I run Mastodon. I watch these things. I actually saw all the posts come through this morning. There's a bunch more features other than the one that I'm about to talk about, but this one's kind of a big deal. Quote posts. Now, you've seen them on Twitter, you've seen them on Threads, I'm sure. They are unfortunately abused by folks in those spaces to sort of single people out and dogpile people onto someone that you want to try to attack. People get harassed using quote posts all the time. I think they call them subtweets for a while on Twitter, but you've seen them. It's basically you single out someone's post and you leave your thoughts on it, and then everybody dogpiles on. All of your followers then also attack this person. And it's considered harassment. A lot of people did not like that feature of Twitter. So when Mastodon was released, it did not feature an ability to quote post, which is kind of a detriment to Mastodon itself because it is a useful feature when it's used properly. The problem with Threads and with X now is that as the person being quoted, you didn't have any protections or controls over being mentioned like that, right? So with Mastodon 4.5, the quote post feature also comes along with your own moderation abilities, right? You can set your own permissions either per post or account wide so that you can say only people who follow me can quote post me or no one can quote post me, right? So you actually get some control over whether people are using this feature or not. Why other networks don't do it this way, I'm not sure. Maybe it's because they don't actually care about the sanity of their users. They just care about making money off of you. So anyway, Mastodon 4.5, quote posting. It's a thing. All right, our next article is from Tech Power Up. 3% of Steam users play on Linux. A third of them are on SteamOS. Now, what that means is that, a third of them are using probably something like a Steam Deck, but you can run SteamOS on a PC now, which is kind of a big deal for some people. But the other 2/3 of them are on some other Linux distribution, which is something that I've been talking about for a while, right? The advent of the Steam Deck has opened up gaming on Linux in ways that no other project has in the past, and I think that's pretty awesome. But I digress. So this was numbers pulled from Steam in October. This is done yearly, apparently. The reason that this is interesting is because last year the number was around 2%, which means that it's about a 33% growth from last year to this year. So gaming on Linux is actually gaining more popularity, which I think is pretty awesome as well. I have some other numbers from the article that I think are kind of interesting. 2.11% of Steam users play on macOS, which is not surprising. macOS really doesn't have a ton of game support. Install Steam on your macOS machine and look at your game library and see what actually works. You'd be kind of dismayed. And then, of course, the other 94-ish% of them are on Windows because, that's where most people game at. You can go to any forum online and talk about gaming on Linux, and you're going to find Windows users saying that it's not possible. But anyway, 94%, and it looks like, let's see, 63.57% of them are on Windows 11, right? So the end of 10 has really hit hard for these folks, and they've all moved over to Windows 11. Of course, the remaining 31-ish% of those are still Windows 10. So yeah, gaming on Linux is gaining popularity, but still has a lot of work to do if it's going to displace Windows. I don't really care if it displaces Windows, as long as the support remains for gaming on Linux, because that's what I really care about. I like having options. All right, our next article comes from Phoronix. Nvidia preparing for Hopper and Blackwell GPU support with open source Nova driver. So the Nova driver is apparently an open source initiative right out of Nvidia to drive their graphics adapters. Now, I say graphics adapters loosely because I think from the little bit of research I was able to do, these Hopper and Blackwell GPUs are actually more like accelerators that are being used for compute, not actual graphics adapters. So the term graphics adapter or GPU is used sort of interchangeably with these accelerators that are being used for things like AI and crypto. But I don't think that that's what these actually are. Maybe they are, and I'm just wrong. But at any rate, I think it's kind of cool, right? Nvidia has traditionally been one of those vendors that you always had to use their proprietary driver. The other alternative was the Novu graphics adapter or graphics driver that you could get with Fedora and a number of other distributions out of the box, which was kind of a reversed engineered sort of hack to make Nvidia graphics adapters work out of the box, but still have an open source license associated with it. Because a lot of Linux distributions don't like to include proprietary software in their distribution if they can avoid it. Fedora is famous for this. You've never been able to get the NVIDIA graphics adapter drivers directly, the NVIDIA built ones directly with your Fedora installation. You always had to turn on a third-party repo and install it. So this open source driver sounds pretty cool if you ask me. I don't know if that's going to expand to also support the standard gaming graphics adapters or if it's going to just be stuck with these data center adapters. But I think it'd be cool if it supported both. So yeah, open source initiatives coming out of NVIDIA. I like it. All right, our last article for today is from CRN. And so not to be outdone by AWS, Azure had its own outage last week. The article is titled Microsoft's 8-hour Azure outage, 5 things we've learned so far. I didn't count if there were 5 things in the article. I'm just going to trust them. I got some bullet points out of the article that I'm going to review at the moment, similar to what I did with the AWS outage a couple weeks ago. So Azure... basically at 3:45 p.m. UTC on Wednesday of last week, the Azure Front Door Service, or AFD, which is the CDN for Azure, or the CDN service on Azure, experienced some issues. And the thing that they're blaming is what they're calling inadvertent tenant config, which sounds to me like, oops, we pushed a bad configuration out. So, of course, that led to some downstream problems. Everything that used the CDN, of course, was impacted by this configuration mishap. And they took steps to do things like prevent the spread of the configuration change because, when you push something to a cloud service, it's not instantaneous. It goes into probably some repository somewhere, and then it slowly gets propagated out to all of the branches of your cloud provider. In this case, they had stopped that propagation before it had gotten everywhere. So you may have seen sort of a spotty works here, doesn't work there sort of outage in that case. And of course, what they're doing now is they're taking some steps to better review that code and make sure that there's better safeguards in place. The outage went, I mentioned when it started, but not when it finished. The outage went from 3:45 p.m. UTC on Wednesday to just after midnight on Thursday. Looks like they say 12:05 a.m. on Thursday. So, maybe we'll get a Google Cloud outage next. Who knows? All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in today, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the news recap this week. Remember to come out to the DEF CON 610 meetup if you're in the northeastern PA region, near Easton, Pennsylvania, near Phillipsburg, New Jersey, and kind of that region. It should be a great time. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this content, and leave a comment if you have any comments on today's news. And folks, I'll catch you in a week. Have a great one.